I never believed in love at first sight. At least, not until I met her. We were both just passing through a crowded train station, the kind of place where everyone's in a hurry, heads down, moving with purpose. No one expects to meet someone that matters there. But when I saw her, everything changed. It wasn't anything dramatic, just the way she stood there, her hand resting on a stack of books, eyes scanning the titles like she was searching for something familiar. I couldn't put my finger on it, but there was something about her. Maybe it was the calm in her eyes or the way she seemed completely comfortable in a world full of rush. I didn't want to seem like a creep, so I looked away, pretending to read my book. But then, almost as if she'd read my mind, she spoke. "Is that The Great Gatsby?" she asked, pointing to the book in my hands. I looked up, startled, and our eyes met. There was something so genuine about her curiosity, and for a moment, I couldn't remember what I was thinking before she asked. "Yeah," I replied. "It's my favorite. There's something about the way Gatsby loves Daisy, so hopeless, so pure. Makes you believe in things you didn't know you believed in." She smiled, and that smile made me feel like I had just said the most important thing in the world. We started talking, and before I knew it, the train was pulling up, and I hadn't even noticed how much time had passed. "I guess this is where I get off," I said, standing up. I gave her a small smile, one that felt more significant than I intended. "It was nice talking to you." She nodded, and for a moment, I thought maybe I'd just imagined the connection. After all, she was a stranger, and I'd probably never see her again. But as I walked away, I felt that strange ache in my chest, the kind of feeling you get when you know you've just let something slip through your fingers. Days turned into weeks, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. I went on with my life, work, routines, the usual, but that conversation kept replaying in my mind. The way she talked about books, how easily we clicked. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd met someone who mattered. And so, I found myself going back to the station, hoping she'd be there. And then, one day, she was. I didn't expect it, didn't plan it, but there she was, standing exactly where I had seen her before. I stopped in my tracks, heart racing in my chest. She saw me at the same time, and our eyes locked. It was like nothing had changed, even though everything had. "I thought I might find you here," I said, my voice softer than I expected. She smiled, and in that moment, everything seemed to click. "I never stopped coming," she replied, as if she had been waiting, too. I didn't need to say anything else. I could feel it. We both knew. Maybe we'd never admit it aloud, but in that fleeting moment, we both understood that sometimes things don't happen right away, and sometimes they happen when you least expect them, but when they do, they feel like they were always meant to. We started seeing each other more after that, spending afternoons in bookstores, talking about our favorite novels, sharing stories about our lives, and finding comfort in the quiet moments. But even more than that, I began to realize that the waiting, the wondering, had all been worth it. Because meeting her hadn't been random, it had been something that, in some strange way, felt fated. Years passed, and we built our life together. There were good days and hard ones, but through it all, I kept thinking back to that first time I met her, the way fate had brought us together in a crowded train station, and how it had brought me back to her when I wasn't looking. And now, as I sit next to her, I realize that sometimes love isn't about grand gestures or instant fireworks. It's about the quiet moments that pass by unnoticed, the ones that stay with you even when you don't expect them to. Our love wasn't a story that began with a bang. It was a story that began with a small question and a chance encounter. And that made it all the more meaningful. Like and subscribe for more stories.